Today I'm going to show you how to wrap the headliner and pillars in a suede fabric material on your car. Now the material I'm going to be using is this suede soft touch kind of material, and it's black to match the interior of my car. So taking a look around, in order to remove the headliner, we need to remove the B pillar trim, the A pillar trim, the handle, the sun visor, the front dome light, as well as the rear dome light, and the trim that goes around the sunroof. And also remove the C pillar, and then the headliner should drop right down. So I'm going to start with the A pillar. I'm going to use my brother's toothbrush here as a panel removal tool and pry up against this corner here against the headliner and pull the A pillar back and then pull it up out of the dashboard. Next up, I'm going to remove the sun visor. Just twist like this, and then you release it. I broke the other one by just pulling on it straight out. Next up, I'm going to pry off this trim, and then I'm going to come in with my brother's toothbrush here and unscrew these sun visor screws. And then we can remove the sun visor. Next up, I need to remove this handle, so I'm going to come in with the pliers and remove this trim piece here. And then I can remove the handle. Now in order to remove this console here, there's just two clips on the underside here that hold it on. So you have to reach back here with your fingers and pry it downward, and that should pop the clips free, and then pull forward and then disconnect this electrical connector over here, and you can remove the console. That's where the clips are supposed to go in, and there's supposed to be two metal things on this console here, but I broke them. Next up, I'm going to pull the sunroof back and grab onto this trim here and pull it back. Next up, I'm going to remove the dome light. It's coming with a small screwdriver here, and pry off the lens, and then the dome light comes down. So next up, we need to remove the B pillar to get to the headliner. To do that, we need to remove the bottom part of this B pillar, but to do that, we need to remove the rear scuff plate as well as the front scuff plate. So I'm just going to come in with my brother's toothbrush here as my panel removal tool and pull up on the scuff plate. Same thing with the front scuff plate, coming with my brother's toothbrush here. Now the B pillar is largely held on by clips, so we're just going to start at the bottom here and pull it outward. You just unclip it from the front and release it from the back. In order to get the upper part of the B pillar on, I'm going to remove the seat belt. So I'm going to loosen up and remove that seat belt out of the way. There's two small screws at the bottom of the B pillar. And now the rest of the B pillar is just held in by clips. I'm going to slowly remove it. Next up, to remove the C pillar, I'm going to use my brother's toothbrush and just come in here and get a little edge where I can pull this off. It's just held on all by clips. Pull it up and away. The headliner is fairly loose and is only being held on by the weather stripping on the outside of the doors. So it looks like there's one electrical connector here that's connected to the headliner for the sunroof. And then back on the C pillar, there's an electrical connector over here that connects to this filter. Okay, so with the headliner pulled down, you can see that there is a wire that goes off to the A pillar for the dome light and sunroof. And there's also a wire at the back here that goes to the defrosters. Well, it looks like I broke that off. Now that the headliner is free, watch me struggle as I remove it from the vehicle. Now normally a headliner will go in through the windshield during production. Now of course I'm not going to remove my windshield, so I did have to crinkle the headliner a little bit. And this is what the interior looks like with the headliner removed. We have this sunroof slider to remove next. So this black piece here is the stopper that's holding this slider from going all the way back. Okay, so once those two clips are released, I'm going to pull this black piece down. So I'm going to pull back this sunroof shade. So here's another thing that I broke. This bracket here was actually glued to the headliner, and I was supposed to push the headliner back in order to free it. Now this white brace here is where the side airbag would be if your vehicle is so equipped. This also goes to show how much you have to do in order to access the moonroof on your vehicle if it needs to be serviced. So here I've got all my parts laid out that I'm going to suede wrap. I've got my C pillars, B pillars, and A pillars, as well as my moonroof shade and headliner. Now this here is the moonroof cover. Now in order for it to maintain a nice smooth slide, I'm actually going to peel back this material here and cut it short, and then wrap the suede over it, because the suede material would make it too thick and it would be too stiff. And that's what the edge looks like once it's all cleaned up. Now here I have the A pillar. It's actually made of a textured plastic, but over the years it probably accumulated dust. So I'm going to prepare the surface by sanding it with a little bit of 80 grit sandpaper. So now that all the panels are sanded, I'm just going to come in with a little bit of soapy water here and spray that down. I'm going to clean it off using my brother's sock. I'm going to take my cloth and cover this, and I'll go around and rough cut the material. Now here I have the A pillar trim that I'm going to wrap next. I'm just going to pull this back. Now for the plastic bits, I'm going to be using Super 77 3M Classic Spray, and apply it to the A pillar, and then also apply it to the suede fabric. Now once this is dried out for about 2 minutes and it's tacky to the touch, and gently pull it down. And starting from the middle, work my way down to the bottom of the A-pillar. And so now you should have something that looks like this. We've got the material roughly laid out, nice and smooth. And we just have to work on the edges next. Now I've already trimmed around the A-pillar suede so that we have a couple of millimeters sticking out, and I'm going to spray some glue on it. Then I'll just fold that over and complete the job. For the main headliner, I'm going to start by laying out the material to line it up. And then I'm going to fold it in half. Now I'm going to spray the 3M90 spray adhesive to the suede material. I'm also going to apply it to the headliner itself so that it sticks because it's like contact cement. Next I'm going to slowly pull the suede headliner material down over the actual headliner. I got a lot of hands in this case here to help me out since it's a really big piece. And we're going to start pressing from the middle and working our way outward. Here we're going to cut the sunroof hole out a little bit to help out with the positioning around the cutout. So we're actually having a little bit of difficulty with the 3M90 spray adhesive. It's coming out more like a spider web instead of an even consistent spray. So I've pulled back the headliner again and I'm going to respray it with 3M77 spray adhesive, which seems to distribute itself a little bit better. Now I'm going to pull the suede back over the headliner and stick it down into all of the creases. Here I'm applying the spray adhesive to the rear half of the headliner and the suede material. The 3M90 stuff doesn't seem to be working, so I'm supplementing it with 3M77, although it is going to be a little bit weaker. Next up, we're going to take the suede and pull it tightly over the rear of the headliner, being careful not to stretch it too much, because that can cause it to be under stress and pull back when the glue has dried. Now for the edges, I'm just going to put a little bit of newspaper around the edges of the suede so it doesn't overspray onto the headliner material, and then I'll just spray the edges down. And then finally we're just going to fold around the edges and tuck it down, and then I'll give it a trim. It's been a few days and the suede's lifting up, so that 3M90 stuff doesn't actually work for what it's advertised for, so I'm going to lift it up and repaste it with some heavy duty contact cement. I'm just going to peel back the suede here. I'm just going to pour out my contact cement into a metal container here, and then I'm going to brush the contact cement onto the headliner. Now that I've applied the cement to both sides, it's nice and tacky here and here. Starting from the center, I'll slowly work my way outward. Now for the acrylic pieces, I'm going to be using a black satin paint to paint them over so it matches the suede wrap. And now I'm going to paint all the smaller trims. And I'm also going to paint these grab handles. And this is what the plastic pieces look like after they've been painted. And this is what all the pieces look like after they've been wrapped in suede and they're ready to install back into the car. Now I'm going to install the sunroof shade into its tracks and make sure the shade moves nice and smoothly along its tracks. Alright, so the headliner is now in the car. I'm going to go ahead and start clipping the rear clips in first, and then I'm going to clip in the sun visor clip at the front just to tack it up. And now up at the front, I'm going to insert the sun visor clip into the headliner. Now that the headliner is positioned, I can go ahead and tuck the weather stripping above the headliner. So next up, I'm going to install this trim that goes around the headliner and the sun visor. Next up, I'm going to install the dome light. Next, I'm going to install the grab handles, the handle and then the screw. Then I'm going to install the cover. Alright, next up I'm going to install the C-pillar trim. Next I'm going to install the B-pillar trim. So I'll first thread the seat belt through here, and then I need to line up this little peg here that moves up and down with the button to this little dial over here on the seat belt. Next up I'm going to install the A-pillar. Now I'm going to reinstall the overhead console. So now that that's fit in place, it doesn't stay because of those two clips that I broke at the back there. So what I'm going to do is drill a hole over here and put a screw in it. And then I'll take a screw here and drill it right into that hole. That's it, and that overhead console is not going anywhere. And this is what the interior looks like after the pillars and headliner have been wrapped in black suede. It really transforms the look of this car. Now the material used on the pillars and the headliner has a very high class and luxurious feel to it. However, it is prone to collecting dust. So what you can do is come in with my brother's toothbrush here and comb the material in one direction, and that'll take off the dust and make it look nice and neat. Here's how to turn your brother's toothbrush into a panel removal tool. And that's pretty much all you need, a nice flat surface to wedge into the panels.